This is Research Unit Packet video number 2. In the first video, we focused on our works cited information. This is the information that's going to help us cite our source number 1 so that we don't plagiarize. Now we're going to move on to the third page in the white packet, and this is where we are actually going to put the information that will help answer our research question. Now, the research question is written right here at the top of page 3. Has distance learning been an effective way of learning during the COVID-19 pandemic? So we are going to look for information that helps us answer this question. So at this point, you are going to go into source number 1. Again, this is the pink packet, and you are going to read the article. As you are reading, if at any point you see facts or opinions that tell you if distance learning was a good thing or a bad thing, I want you to either highlight it or underline it, depending on if you have a highlighter, a pen, or a pencil. You'll need to pause the video and again look for any information that might suggest that distance learning is either good or bad. Now, when I was reading through source number 1, I did find multiple places where I thought they told me if they thought it was good or bad. So I went ahead and highlighted those in my article. So now I need to take this information and I need to then transfer it to my notes. Now, we only have room for 4 notes, so we won't record everything. Again, we're practicing the skills, and since we're not going to create the paper at the end, we're kind of taking a couple of shortcuts. So we're only going to write down the first 4 notes out of the article. Basically, the first 4 facts or opinions that I was able to find. So the first note that I found was on the second page of the article. Now, at this point, there was a mention in the article that a school had suffered from an outbreak of COVID-19 and other schools had been hard hit in Georgia. Now, to me, that suggests that distance learning is good because it would keep students from getting COVID-19. So I'm going to take this information and I'm going to put it into my notes. Now, in my notes, I have to decide if this is a fact or an opinion. And the opinions will be written as quotations, which means to be copied word for word. So, schools have suffered an outbreak of COVID-19 in Georgia. This is a fact because it can be proven. We can prove that this actually happened. Since it is a fact, I am not going to copy and paste it directly into my notes. I am going to put it into my own words. So when I look at this fact, I basically am saying that schools did have outbreaks of COVID-19 that went in person in the state of Georgia, which would not have happened if these students had stayed home. So now to put that into my notes, one thing I need to do, this is a fact, so I need to circle that. I need to record what page it was found on, which happens to be page 2 of the article. We'll make this a little bit more visible for you. And now the actual information will go in this box. So putting that information or that fact into my own words, I would write, Schools in Georgia who were in person did have COVID-19 outbreaks, which distance learning could prevent. So there is my first note. It was a fact from page 2, and because it was a fact, I rewrote the information in my own words. All right. Going down to the next thing that I highlighted in my article. In the next paragraph, it talks about a student by the name of Collier Evans from Alpharetta, Georgia. He said he could have gone in person full-time, but he decided to pick a blended option because he was anxious about returning to school. He said that my parents and me, we said we didn't want to go in classroom, get sick, and then I'd bring it home and get my family sick. So he talked about how he wanted to distance learn so that he could keep his family safer. So that's another support that distance learning can be positive. So I need to take this same information, and this would be another fact. It is a fact that Collier decided to stay home, and it is a fact that by staying home, he is less likely to get his family sick. So we're going to take this information and once again transfer it into our document. Let's first remind ourselves that this was a fact, as in this is information that can be proven as true. It is from page 2 of our source. And now let's put our information into the box. Again, I'm not copying and pasting it directly. I'm putting it in my own words. So we have Collier Evans from Georgia decided to do blended learning so that he could help keep his family from getting sick. Quite often, when you reword your facts, if you notice, we can take what was quite a few lines in the article and we can shorten it when we paraphrase it. Paraphrase is to put something in your own words. And that's the nice thing, is when we're taking notes, quite often we can shorten the information by putting it into fewer words, which means you write less during this process. All right, we have room for 2 more pieces of information from our article. So let's keep going. Here's the next thing that I highlighted. You had to wait in a queue for like 30 minutes to ask the teacher one question. All right, this was another statement that Collier said, and he was actually remarking on last year's distance learning. So even though he is choosing to do partial distance learning, he did say that there was some bad stuff about it, as in waiting in line just so you could talk to your teacher. So that's something that we can prove. We could actually view one of these lessons and see how long it took for each student to get to the teacher. Again, that makes it a fact. So when we go into our notes, we found another fact, also on page 2. So in that fact, Collier Evans said that one thing he did not like about distance learning was having to wait 30 minutes to talk to his teacher. All right. So we already have 3 pieces of information that are going to help us decide if distance learning was good or bad. 2 of these have been positive. 1 of them has been against distance learning. Let's see what else we found in source number 1. Towards the bottom of page 2, there's another part I highlighted where it said, most American parents said it was unsafe to send their children back to school. More than 80% favor school conducted at least partly online, according to a new Washington Post Sklar School survey conducted by Ipsos. Now, this is an interesting piece of information because it is actually a mixture of opinion and fact. For example, we can prove that 80% of schools, 80% favor. So 80% parents agreed that school should be conducted partly online, which means they should not go back fully in person. And it was because of the opinion that it was unsafe. Again, this is an opinion because there are going to be people that disagree with them, and we cannot completely 100% prove one way or another because people see safety differently. What one person thinks of as safe, another person can still think of as too dangerous. So we have a mixture of an opinion and a fact. What I would recommend doing with something like this is I would recommend that because there's an opinion in it, we follow opinion rules, which means on our notes, we're going to do this as a quotation, which means we're going to copy it word for word just so that we don't accidentally change the opinion part. So it was found on page 2, and because it's a quotation note, again, we're going to want to copy it word for word from the article. Now you might want to pause the video to copy your own over, but here I have copied word for word exactly what was in the article. Again, if it's a fact and only a fact, we try to rewrite it in our own words or paraphrase it. If it's an opinion, we use the quotation method where we copy it word for word so that we don't accidentally change their opinion. There's one more thing you've got to do with an opinion, which is a quotation now. You have to put it in quotation marks. Those quotation marks show that this is somebody else's words and we are not stealing or plagiarizing them. We are simply borrowing them for research use. Now, the last thing we'll do today is fill in the parenthetical citation. And if you notice, you only need them for quotation notes. So if it's a fact note, we don't need to fill it in. So these 3 boxes, don't need it. The last box we do because it's a quotation note, which means we need to tell exactly which source this quote came from. All we do is go back to the previous page, and there's our parenthetical citation, italic. So I'm going to put that right here. All right. So now I have pages 1, 2, and 3 done. And make sure you bring all of this with you to class to continue tomorrow.